we're holding at the beginning of the Mamer Betzim. Okay. So we're going to be going from we're holding Siv Gimmel. We started off last time. I'm going through Siv Base Speaker. And we'll continue now to the next shlaf. Basically, the discussion in this Mamer, or this whole Hemshech in Yonim, is the difference between Mailat in Ketzel and Matat in Tachlis, which is Bechlolus. We want to understand what the Taich, like you said, what's the Eibishter. And we had this, we have this Indian, the way it comes in from all of the Rabbeim, and over here we have specifically the way it's from the Rebbe. So we began last time with the pastures, the difference between Atzilus and Biyah. So the difference is that Atzilus is Keches and Biyah is Levushim. The difference between Keches and Levushim, the pastures is that Keches are the person himself. Meaning the keches are marked the way a person thinks. That says this is my identity. I identify with it. If I think something, then I can't change it because this already became me. And we said then that this kamo protein is aside the fact that the way I think, say what I think, and al derech v'silin seichel, al derech v'silin midas, is the way I feel, which is my character, my personality, and then there is also the midah itself. Once this midah became, kemen duf nishbay. Now, here starts the atifrein. So it's actually interesting that in Siv Gimmel, the Rebbe starts off with bire inyan. Shes esfiret atzilus nikroim gufi, ubiyah levushim be'emek yeser. Now, in order to explain this in Be'emek Yeser, the Rebbe is going to, there's actually a Hagor of the Rebbe over here. It says that we're going to see over here what's the chiluk between Keches and Levushim, Tifer, and then he adds the Lashon Ve'ikr. So what's the Nukudas HaChiluk, the real difference between Keches and Levushim? So the Nukudas HaDvarim Bezeh is that Keches and Levushim are not mischalik just that the nefesh is misached more with Keches and Levushim, nor farket the way the Keches are misyaches to the nefesh is more than a yichud than the way Levushim are misyachet. If we'll say in one word, it's not just mitzad the gavre, it's mitzad the cheft. Verstehst? The way we've had this discussion till now is, how does the etzem nefesh look at Keches? And he says, I am Keches. I identify with Keches. Umemela, everything that happens in Keches is really happening in me. Mashenkin, something that happens in Levushim, is not really me. So it's a besondere Sache, it's something outside of me. Now we're going to see that the reason for that gufi is not because it's the way the nefesh looks at the keches, the way it looks at the levushim, it's because of the gather of the keches and levushim themselves. And the nekudas achiluk is that keches, their ganzer inyan is nefesh. Melachatchila, they don't have any other inyan. Mashenki and levushim, they do have another inyan. They are atheists. Elamai, they could be a keli for the inyanim of nefesh. So because they have their own inyan, be'etzem, is their far, afterwards the misyachas to nefesh in a different life. In other words, it's not the taich, what am I a keli for, how much I'm connected to nefesh. The shaila is one thing. Do I have my own agenda or not? Do I have my own inyan? With the Lashon in the Mamer, like he says in the beginning of Sif Gimmel, the Pirush Levushim Yuchadu She'ene Inyan La'atzmei. So what's the taich? There's a pashtus. The keches can't exist themselves. There's no such thing as having a keich. Mashaik and Levushim do exist themselves. So the dogma for this chiluk is the difference between a guf and a levush. a guf is doch the taich that what is the guf? Kol inyoni is the nefesh. Ad kedei kach that the way the nefesh works in the guf is that when the nefesh wants something, the guf is immediately bottled. When the nefesh wants to go in a certain direction, so the guf follows. Noch mehr, man sagt, kein Neser atzmei. It says that a person, the Gashmi, his guf is so bottled to his nefesh that it's kilo mushpa in his metzias from the nefesh. That he has less weight. Noch mehr steht doch that the guf becomes chai. Guf becoming chai means that when I look at the guf, I don't see guf, I don't see a body over here. What I see is that it's doepis a nefesh, which is alive, which is expressing itself. Like Bepashtus, when you look at a person's face, if a person's alive, even without movement, you could see in the face that there's life over here. So the reason for this is not because, like we were saying yesterday. Yesterday the sprach was very technical. The Keiches you can't change, and the levushim you could change. Why is that? It's because I identified with the Keiches and I didn't identify with the levushim. Now we're saying a tiferet zach. The guf itself, and al derech there can be the Keiches. What is muhusei? Muhusei is nefesh. There's no such thing as a guf existing in the world without a nefesh in it. And al derech there, you can't go to the store and buy chesed, or buy chochme. There's such musig as chochme. Mashenkin ACS, beferish is, there's such a musig as ACS, you could have ACS aksav, which are separate from nefesh, and they exist. And there are people in the world, but there is ACS. Obviously, the way ACS work is an expression of nefesh. It's a keli to be megala nefesh. But ACS, keilu neymar, the nefesh possesses ACS. The nefesh has the ACS. Aber the ACS themselves are besondere Sache. Kommt ist, als was ist der Chiluk zwischen Keiches und Levushim, that man sagen tiefer. It's not just that the imyonom is mitzad ha-nefesh. One is more Messiachet and one is less Messiachet. Now the shaila is in their own gather themselves. Do they have a separate inyan or not? What's the taich keiches? There's a loshon in Toshin Tezayin, or Lakachten Tezayin. He says, as what are the keiches? They are an inyan nafsh. When I meet a chesed, what is it I'm hearing nefesh? If somebody's going to describe chesed without talking about nefesh, if he's going to talk about the hispashtos or the excitement, and there is no I over here, he is missing the Mohusinyam HaChesed. Nicht das ist Chesed. Chesed is a Gutzkeit, a Tnua from Gili of a person. It's a person. Masha'enkin, Machshav Dibur Maisa, Levushim, it's not that. Machshav Dibur Maisa are atheists. Atheists, Kilo, it's not a nafshiistic Zach. Over Pratis, let's say there's really two Pratim over here. First of all, that they are like the Nefesh. Zweitens, it's not just that they're like the Nefesh. In Yonam is legalis ha-Nefesh. So that types that up. Why is there the Musik Chesed in the world? Let's begin, Pashat, a step back. So there are Nefesh. The Eibster made Etzem ha-Nefesh, Arab gekommen in Welt. He just is. This Etzem ha-Nefesh is machriach the inyan of Keiches. Why? Because this Nefesh wants to express himself. For whatever reason. So therefore, there's a keach there's a need of the Nefesh for expression. So therefore, he needs to have the inyan ha-Gvul. When he has the inyan ha-Gvul, it's not a double nesif on him to say that what's happening over here is expressing the nefesh, the chesed, and this chesed is expressing I. It works verkehrt. The emes melachatchila, what is da given, there's I. I'm looking to express myself. Because of that, therefore I have chesed ugvur. Compares that the difference between chesed and machshav dibur u'maaseh is that the chesed melachatchila doesn't have any other union. He's daimed to the nefesh. In other words, what is it? It is a nafshi zikr. If you want to really understand what he is, who he is nefesh, and what he's serving in Yoni is legalis nefesh, which al derech zeh also having guf. This is the most. That's why in Zayar, when we describe the keiches, the spheres, we describe it as gufim. What's the type guf? What is the guf? The guf is if the nefesh wants to come down into this world. So there has to be something which in Yoni is to a keli for this. That's a tight guf. He doesn't have any other purpose in it. Therefore, you can't have a guf without a nefesh in it. The Gashmis. There's no such thing as having a guf. And the avdem is our nefesh. The guf in Yoni is v'harai. A person dies, the nefesh disintegrates. He can't exist separately. Because calling Yoni is melchatchila keli for nefesh. Mela hat men die alle in Yoni. First of all, he's daimed to the nefesh. The pastors, ki yadua that a person's panim, a person's tzir kema expresses his mahus. State of Moshe Rabbeinu's 10 amos tall. Why? Because in Yonei was Baruchni is Sfiras Hachana, which is Kelul alle Sfiras, so is Efes Sfiras. So whichever in Yonei is Amshachet. And Begashmis, it's like that. I mean, so you don't need to have more asbara. A person's personality is expressed in his guf. When you see a person's face, ziv ponov, you can tell who he is. If he's achzari, he's going to look like that. If he's a chacham, he's going to look like that. But the different tchunas of a person, why? Because the melachatchila calling yoni of guf is nefesh, so therefore he's megala the nefesh. A hot mishken ader inyan oizer the nefesh. Mashe'ein kein, the levushim is nicht as it. The levushim have their own meaning. You could use me for nefesh, aber nicht das, was ich bin. I have melchatchila a different thing. Yeah. Therefore, a positive beauty of this is that if a person says something, I could repeat the word of Bishleimus without having any connection. It's not me. Ich sag bal peh, was hat gesagt. Das ist such a musik. Why? Because the words will chatchila not him, I could also take them and repeat them. They could also become mine. Masha'ekin is midas. Reuven said, ich hab lieb. Could I repeat Reuven's ich hab lieb? Reuven hat gesagt, ich verstehe. Ich der Herr. Could I repeat his der Herr? Of course not. Maybe I could der Herr. But then I'm not talking about Reuven's der Herr. Ich kann reden wegen ich der Herr. Aber as der Herr, which Agav is always going to be different because we're different people, so it's never always going to be the same. So I can't ever carry his keiches. The reason for that is because the keiches were never really separate from the nefesh. I'm not him. Reuven's Reuven and Shimon is Shimon. The Shimon at Chazen and Reuven's hergish is that it's almo bleiben as his Reuven's hergish, and I'm just repeating the words. Good, the words you could repeat. Let's say it even better. What's pshat I connect when I repeat Reuven's hergish? I'm going to tell you a story, and I'll tell you Reuven what I feel. The fact is that you could get emotional. You could get emotional from that. You could kannst überleben, was ich dir erzähl, was jener hat erzählt. What's the touch? The reason du lebst das Iber is because we have a Hergish. And we're imagining that when redt, was tut sich da, ich leb Iber, what I'm experiencing in my imagination, from my memories, from my own nefesh. So I'm saying, this is what has happened. So something which happened to me, I magnify it and I say, bei mir ist das noch mehr. So I'm taking the same things as he has in my life, I'm making it bigger. There's no such thing out there, me experiencing him. So I lost him in Shaykh Dvamunah. Says in Tanya that everything a person knows, in Rotzen, and Das, and Seicha, all in Yonim, is because of the way he's marketing himself. And I'm on the course in the beginning over there, in the first production he brings it. He says, it's impossible for a person to understand anything only from the way it's by him. Why is that? Because his Hergish is him, and mine is mine. Is Lesikum, Keiches are the person, Midus, Machshav de Burumaisa are not the person. But there's a difference between the way we learned in Siv Beis and the way in Siv Gimmel. In Siv Beis we're saying that mitzad ha etzem nefesh, he looks at Keiches as I. And the way he looks at Levushim is as a separate thing. Changing what we're saying over here is a tiferet. What's the gather of the Keiches? I don't have any other inyan besides for nefesh. In Yoni is legalis on nefesh, in Yoni is mein on nefesh. Ich bin am nafshi. I'm him. Therefore, it's not, I could never really deliver it to someone else. Mashayin kein levushim, it's lechatchila something else. It's lechatchila abazundere zach. And that's also why it could be changed. So now we have a tip for the pshat why it could be changed. Yesterday, the reason why we saying that you can't change keiches is because I identified with it already. I became already a communist. I'm convinced. I can't change. Now I think a different word. This derher was a chatchila part of me. There's no other inyan over it. So Memele it's dof. If Memele can't be taken away. No, it's a gather in the keiches, not a gather only in that. Lefi zeh, met ons komen echt een verkeerde woord. When there is a way for a person to deliver his Seichel Amidus, then he becomes connected. What says? If I do convince you of a svar, so Emechem the way I'm convincing you is by making you be megala that in yourself. But it's because of my experiences with my ACs. So it may be a very chitzenic thing, but the fact is that I did share with you my heritage. That sharing makes us have a very deep relationship. That's pshat friendship. You know the way I feel. What's pshat a good chavruse? You know the way I understand. I trust you. That you understood me. How do two people connect? The pashtustic way, the superficial way is I say words and you hear my words. You didn't connect. You didn't connect to me. Because hagufe, because machshava dibur ma'isa chitzenisike zachen so lechatchila not me. So therefore, when you take them, you didn't connect to me. So you know my words, you know my maisim. So we're saying over here, mitzad echad, it's impossible to share me, my cases. Then we're saying, le'idach, doch bedakus you could share it. Through this chitzenistic system of being ma'eder by you this union, but now we're both feeling in the same direction. We're both derehering in this. We're both looking at the same place. Taka, I'm looking from my eyes, and you're looking from your eyes. Our two scholim, mein seichel and dein seichel, aber wir gucken auf derselbe Sache. And therefore we're connected. We're connected in a real way. Yeah. The embassy is mit Absagen noch mehr. When we say that the atheists, they have their own metzias, it could be misunderstood to mean that in every svara you have the head of the svara, and then you have like the kelim, the structure. Like we're pastors. Every svara has a certain cheshbon in order to be able to understand it. So it sounds like a lot of times that when I say a svara, what I'm saying is that ich sag a svara, I sag das in atheists, so the atheists are the kelim, and the svara is the air. The truth is that the atheists are not even the kelim. There's the cheshbon of the svara, that's not atheists. V'haraya. You could say the same cheshbon in different atheists. So even the hasbara of the svara, the chitzenius of the kerch is echt nicht atheists. The atheists are the gamre bazundere zach, not just from the nefesh of the kerches, it's bazunder even from the kilonym, the agdara of the kerches. It's not just bazunder from the head of the svara, it's bazunder from the cheshbon of the svara. What is it? It's stam language. A person could repeat atheist without understanding anything. So when I do use atheist to be masber the seichel, suddenly they became chitzenius of seichel. They become of the seichel, nicht the primis, nicht the chitzenius. What then in the atheists? The atheists are the tools which the cheshbon of the svara uses. And the Chassidus brengt man allemaal de rijen. As you have the Rosh and the Ran, and you have different Rishonim saying the same svara, and everyone's using different atheists. There's a raya that the atheists have nothing to do with that. Unverkehrt leidoch idas eichetams. And look, it doesn't say it in usually in the Mamerim, in also you have in Ein Beis Baruches and Chelik Beis over there, and you have a Zayitnu Tavshin Tezvov. It's Miyusud on that. So he says over there that you don't have over there we say this thing from the Rosh and the Ram that you could say the same svara in different atheists, but Sedon Tafrishnun and in other places that we say Fakert svara, Fakert Eichach. You could use the same atheist to say fakert things. Not just the same svara could come in different atheists. The same atheist could be used for different svaras. For pastors, you have certain words which you masader these words in one sequence, in one sentence. Sagt pashta zach. Stama Amalatzim could use this language. The same atheist could now be used in a different seder. Kumteis, as atheists and nefesh have nothing to do with each other. And this is the most achiluk between the gufim and levushim. Levushim, the gashmis, a levush has its own inyan. What is its own inyan? There's a certain yefi in clothes, a hat, a nice hat, nice shoes. They bring yefi to the person who wears them. But if somebody has shoes, has a hat, is it worth money? A coat hanging on a hanger, is there a yefi over here? Is there a color? Is there the texture of shoe? Tzazach? In Yoni is what am I going to be able to do with it? I'm going to be able to use it for something else. Masha'ein kein keichetz or guf, finish doza zach guf on nefesh. Also mitzad the gather of what he is. Okay. Before we continue, is there any questions? Any hard? Hagoyes? We're still over here. I don't see any faces either. Alle behalten sich. Okay. Just one more knetch before we finish off. In Zayitnu Toshin Tezvov, he says that you say this Gavar, the Mamer says already in Ein Beis. It's a very important yesod over here. When we're being mechalik between Keiches and Levushim, the way we were mechalik till now, in Sif Beis, it could have been understood as Avot the Chilik zwischen sie. Keiches in Yonam is he's edel, and therefore he's a Keli for Nefesh, so therefore Nefesh identifies with it. Mashein Kin Levushim, Agrob, Eisius, also an Agrob Sach, Eisius is Avonim, wie es steht allemal, if you see it, Eisius is a besonderes. The way we're learning now, it's nothing to do with how close you are to Nefesh, that a Nefesh should connect with you. It's to do with, do you have another agenda? In other words, sometimes you could have Gora Grobe Sach, or you can have Gora Edele Sach. And the Edele Sach is Nifred is Levushim, and the Grobe Sach is verbunden an Akola Kechitz. V'haraya von unserer Sugi allein. What's Edeler? Asius or Guf? Obviously, Asius is a Dover Ruchni, Asius a Machshava, Asius a Dibur. Mashen King Guf is a Dover Gash. The Imkol there would still be accurate to say, as Guf is al derech Keiches, as there is Dovuk, because he doesn't have any other Inyan. And Levushim, he does have another Inyan. So the Asius, even though they're very edel, which may not be able to be found, they're so edel they could be called. Still, we can sagen that he's Dovuk. It's still called Nifrit. It's Levushim. Just like clothes on a hanger, a chaba was under the Inyan and a mail on a separate thing. And this is the Hagdalah Achillik between Atzilus and Biyah. When I say that the Spheres, what's the touch as a Spheres? It's not a touch, it's just like we were learning yesterday. The Ebeshe could be Nezgale in Chesed or in Gvura. Mitzad, the Edelkeit of Chesed and Gvura. Mashein came in Biyah, it's Nifrit, so the Ebeshe can't come there. The word is verkehrt. Biyah has a separate agenda. He has a separate take. Mashein came es es für das Ziel ist, es nicht nur ist edel, hab nicht kein andere Indien, mehr ich kenne, wer bin ich, kilo nehmen, mit der Hälfte von der Sache allein, who am I, calling Yoni is, to be, in Spirit that Ziel to be Megal or something. So da, mit der Ziel, am Morgen, wie Kuach, ich habe nicht kein Tor, so der Salmation nicht gemacht mit. We're sitting by Verbringen, and the Zalmesha told it to me as du bist Gloss. Du bist Papier, und ich bin Gloss. Paper, by definition, is very edel. It's very thin. It's very, it's clamor. You can't make a mechitza out of paper. Mashenkin glass. Glass could never be as thin as paper. By definition, glass has to have a thickness. Glass is coarse. It has a weight. It has a thickness. It's a grobe Sache. Du bist Papier, ich told him. Und ich bin Gloss. Aber Papier is master. Und Gloss allows for the truth to be made. Glass, it may be grob, but he allows for the emes to be made through it. So he said to him, you yachas to the Rabbi is, du bist gar edel. Und mit Mele, you're very close. So scheile. Der Rabbi maßt mir, der redt mir wegen was man trägt. But he told him, aber dein Edelkeit, das Gufe ist master. Du bist am Hus farzig. You could be am Hus an der Rabbi Kiel. Und mit Mele, you Hus ist master. Maschenken ich bin grob. Grob wie Gloss. Aber der Rabbi scheint durch mich. Just the Bavaran, just Lahamid Varim al Yukam. So da, aber am meisten verkehrt, that the Fidik Rebbe said, as Zalman Meshe can't be a Shadar, and Rabbi Masmit could, because he has a Nachsatzmusse. So, this is a Sachak, wie Zalman Meshe has geguckt auf der Riemen, weiß ich, der Rabbi man gesehen etwas anderes. And say, but what was the word of it? What was he saying? So, me kann einmal sein sehr edel. Ich will mal drehen. Aber you have another Indian. What's closer to Nefesh? Asius or Guf? So an argument could be made that AC is a closer, which is true. It is more ruchni. Aber is nifrit. Maschenke in Kuf, ich hab nicht kein andere Indien in der Melam al derech keches. The Indian could be made from me. So that was the Hadgasha in Toshin Tezrov, as there's no, as a chiluk over is not between Edelkeit and Grabkeit, it's between, do I have another Indian or not have another Indian? And this chiluk between Keichs and Levushim, which is the chiluk between Sfiris Atzilis and the way the Metzias of Biyah, this chiluk had the Rebbe zugelegt the word the Iker. If you read at the beginning of Siv Gimmel, it's actually in the Lashon, ends up being very interesting, because the Lashon is the hektim, the chiluk ben Levushim meyuchet, Levushim nifretu, leirak im efshel apeshte elav, ela the Iker shem chalukim beinyonim. So the Lashon of the Iker, it bediktuk doesn't pass. Ela the Iker, maybe you should say Ela be'Iker. So the reason why it's like that is because it's Agor of the Rebbe, so they just left it to the way the Rebbe wrote the Lashon of the Iker, so as is geblieben. What's interesting is that later there is already the Lashon of the Iker. The Rebbe Weizsäcker wanted I should already say in the beginning of the Indian, what is the Nekudas Achiluk over here? And this is the Iker Achiluk between Sfiras Atzilus and Biyah, if the Hossa andere Indian oder nicht. Und Adkan is the Pashtus, the Chirik between Atzilus and Biyah, L'mayla din Ketz, L'mata din Tachlis. From tomorrow, we're going to start Siv Dalet, wo mehebt on Shingen Tifer, and for this we're going to have to go back to the Inyanim of Eir and Shefa, which we learned in the beginning of Chedesh Cheshvan, and we're going to be using those Yiseitis and the emissaries. There's many more Inyanim over here which wasn't discussed then. The ganze Meisa bis Tifer.